YouTube, welcome back to my channel. It is Friday, October 18th. Today is the birthday of quite a few people that I know. And in the next few days, it's going to be the birthday of someone I'm probably going to get to know really well because we're officially on baby watch. Baby Brown should be arriving pretty soon. And I know it feels like a really short gestation period because I feel like I just told you that we're having a baby, but that's just because it took such a long time for us to break the news. We wanted to share, but we also wanted to keep the newness and the specialness of our announcement. We just kind of wanted to revel in it for as long as we could. We wanted to keep the baby to ourselves as long as we could. I know it's a little selfish, but Mr. Brown and I are really new at this. Neither of us have really been around a lot of babies. I left Jamaica when I was in my early 20s, and so my friends that I had there from childhood, I left right before they started getting married and having children. And then I came here, I came to college, and I was in college with people who were a little younger than I was, and they also weren't having families. And then when I left college and made friends with people who were my age, some of them had already been married and had children. So I haven't really been around a lot of people at the time when they're having babies. So I just wanted to keep this experience for me for as long as possible, and I guess I did. So sorry about that. Sorry if I was selfish, but that's what happens. But the bottom line is we're preparing for the baby. And in preparation for the baby, I realized that I'm not going to be able to go back and forth to my local library as often. So this past week, I returned all the books that I had out from the library. I had 32 books checked out, 32 physical books checked out from my library, including magazines and just stuff. New York Public Library is awesome for that. You can just go in, you go in for one thing, you go in to return a book and you come out with 7 more. So I had 32 books out. Some of them I was in the process of reading. Some of them, they were just on my TBR card, but I hadn't really started. But those that I had finished, I returned them. Those that I was in the process of reading or wanted to, really thought that I was going to be able to read in the next few weeks. Again, I might be overreaching, but I checked out ebook formats instead. So I have a whole list of titles on my Kindle app, on my phone, and on my iPad that I'll be able to access when I'm home preparing for the baby, or when I am in the hospital, or maybe when the baby comes home. And someone said that I'm going to be up late night for feedings, so maybe I'll be able to get some reading done at that point. We don't know, but I have some titles from the New York Public Library on my Kindle app ready for that. So a lot of the reading that I've been doing this week has been trying to finish up some of those books that I have on the Kindle app. The library loan, you can't really renew the Kindle library loans. You have to re-request them. So I'm trying to read them before they become due. I have a lot. I have a lot of titles. I also have a couple of physical books, but not as many. And right now I'm really not trying to walk around with physical books because I don't want to have a heavy bag wherever I go. This is becoming a long introduction. We're here for Friday Reads. I want to tell you what I've read since the last time I talked to you about my reading update, which was last Friday or Saturday. I guess I posted my video on Saturday. At the time, I was reading The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. I finished that book. I posted a review on Monday, and as you know, on Monday evening, Margaret Atwood won the Booker Prize for The Testaments. She shared the prize with Bernadine Evaristo for her novel Girl, Woman, Other, which, I mean, it's really just so interesting to me that so many people have said that they shouldn't have awarded co-winners, and that the assumption is that if they hadn't awarded co-winners, that Bernadine Evaristo would have won on her own. Except I'm not sure, because I've read so many things and heard so many controversial remarks that Atwood was awarded the prize maybe in part because they wanted to honor her career, kind of like changing the Booker to award the prize for a book and making it more Nobel Prize-esque, where you're honoring the author's accomplishments over their career. And I mean, if that was what the Booker Prize committee wanted to do this year, then I'm not sure that Evaristo would have had a chance to win. I haven't read her books. I don't know how it compares with The Testaments, but I didn't like the Testaments all that much. I mean, it was fine. It was a fine read, but I didn't feel like it offered a lot more to the story than what we had from The Handmaid's Tale. A lot of, when I'm giving a synopsis of the book, a lot of what I'm talking about Gilead and the structure of Gilead was all set up in the first book, and I didn't really feel like the Testaments as a sequel really accomplished that much more. So I did a full review. I will link that down below. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, you could go watch my review. I'm not saying that anyone shouldn't read the Testaments. I think it was sufficiently interesting of a book, but I really didn't think it was Booker quality. I didn't think it was Booker winning quality. I have read a lot of Booker Prize winning novels over the last couple of years as my interest in the prize has grown. And I must say, not all books that have won the Booker Prize feel like Booker-esque, feel like really high quality literary fiction. They don't all feel like that, but they all seem like they contribute something. They all seem like they tell some kind of a story. A really political story. Some of them are really great with allegory and telling the story of a nation or telling the story of some political situation through a couple of characters. And I really didn't get that from the Testaments, but I finished it. So that was the first book that I finished since my last Friday Reads check-in. I also read a couple of plays from Oscar Wilde. Yeah, those were the group reads that were selected for Victober, and those are Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest. No, I told you about that in my last Friday Reads video. So since then, I've read A Woman of No Importance, which I thought was so hilarious, and I thought it was a really good use of the characters. So we have some high society people. Most of them are English, and there's one woman from America who's in the group. She's a younger woman, and she's in this room in England. I think it's in the Shires. They're snobbish people, and she has opinions, and she's representing the entire American culture, of course. And it's this juxtaposition of English society versus American liberal attitudes, I suppose. And so we're comparing American versus English, and also youth versus age. But it's also comparing the genders, because we have men in relation with women in lots of different capacities also interacting here. And it was just such a fascinating story. I don't want to get into the details because most of you have probably read that play, and if you haven't, I recommend that you read it. I don't like to know too much about plays going in, especially for a play that was as short as this one. I feel like the less you know about the story, the better it is, the better your enjoyment will be. And just know that it's about a man and his mother and his potential boss and the woman that he loves, and a lot of other characters around who he should be able to learn from but can't because of their very snobbish attitudes. And Oscar Wilde gives us so much play from these characters. Like, everything they say, you could just kind of break it down and find fault, or not fault with the writing, but find fault with the characters. I mean, I thought it was fantastic. So A Woman of No Importance by Oscar Wilde is the only book that I finished for Victober since last Friday, and the only other book that I finished since the Testaments. So like I said, I've been reading a lot, but I haven't been finishing a lot. Other than those two books, I've been reading, and I'm in the process of reading several other things. I'll tell you a few of them. I'm reading the 1986 Booker winner, The Old Devils by Kingsley Amis. I started reading this as a print copy from the library, but I've returned it, so now I'm reading an e-copy. And it is such a fascinating story about age and aging people. It's set in Wales, and we're following a mixed group of couples. They're in their later years, and they're at the place where one of their couple friends is moving back to their local community. And so it is comparing the lives that they had when they were younger people, and some of the mistakes that they made when they were youthful, and them in their later years now, kind of having to pay penance for some of the mistakes that they made. I don't know where the novel is going in terms of its presentation of Wales and Welsh culture, but there's a lot of discussion about the differences between how Welsh people perceive themselves and how they want to be perceived by the wider society. And the fact that the man who had left the community and is returning as a, kind of a returning resident, and the history that he has with the people there. He was a poet while he was away, and he's coming back expecting to be treated like a celebrity, but people are a little angry at how he has represented them to the world, how he has represented their culture, how he has made them seem to people who are others. And I'm not sure if this is going to be the political situation that's discussed in this book, but so far I'm really enjoying it. I'm not that far into it, but far enough. I actually stopped and started again from the beginning. That's something that I do when I'm reading books and I find myself really immersed, but feeling like I missed something, I'll stop and just go back to the beginning. That happens a lot with these Booker books. I feel like it takes me a little while to get into the atmosphere and to really get involved with the characters, and that after I've gone through the process of meeting the characters, I want to go back and now read the story in a little bit different way, a little deeper way. And so sometimes I go back and stop a book in like page 50 and go back in the beginning. So that's why sometimes it takes me a longer time to start a book than it does to finish it, because after I've gotten the atmosphere and I've gotten to know the characters really well and the story is really centered in my mind, I can fly through the rest of it. So hopefully I'll be able to fly through the rest of The Old Devils by Kingsley Amis really quickly. The other book that I'm still reading The Count of Monte Cristo. That's right here. I also stopped this book and started again, which is why now I am not that far in. I should be at least a third of the way in by now. That was my thought. My plan was to be at about page 400 by now. I'm just around page 100 because I stopped. I'd put the book aside for a while. Again, I'd returned the library copy and I'd bought this one. I love this book. I might trade out some of my books and get some Penguin Clothbound classics, but don't tell my husband. I won't do it now. Baby purchases are a priority. But these clothbound books, man, they're gorgeous. In any case, I stopped The Count of Monte Cristo, and I started again. So I'm at the place where he's been arrested and it seems like he's going to be freed, but the person who would have freed him has his own issues that if he freed him would put his own reputation in jeopardy. And so you can tell the Count is going away for a long time. Other books that I'm reading Rites of Passage by Joy N. Hensley. And if that title sounds familiar, that is because I read a book entitled Rites of Passage 2 months ago, and that was by William Golding. And the reason that these two books have the same title is because that is one of the challenges in this year's Pop Sugar Challenge, is to read two books that have different genres that have the same title. And I chose this other Rites of Passage because I knew I had Rites of Passage by William Golding on my TBR for my Booker Reading Challenge. And this one is very different. It's following a 16-year-old girl who is the daughter of a lieutenant colonel in the military. And she has two older brothers. One of them has killed himself, and it seems like he's killed himself because of his involvement in I think he's in the cadets. And the other brother is also in the force. And now she's signed up to be one of the first 5 women to join the class to become cadets. They're not Marines. I'm not very familiar with the levels of the Army, so forgive my ignorance. But she's signing up, and it doesn't seem like it's a military academy that she's attending. And she's doing it because of some dare that her brother issued to her, but she also wants to make her father proud in a way that her older brothers have. But she's also, it seems like, trying to atone for the fact that the eldest brother has committed suicide. It's like she's trying to replace him. So I'm not sure where that part of the story is going, but I started it. I'm intrigued by the story because it's giving a lot of background on what it means to be in this setting, what it means for a woman to join this very male dominated and very patriarchal slice of society, and showing some of the prejudices that she faced going in. But there's a lot of repetition. You can tell that this book is being written or being targeted towards a really young audience because a lot of the details keep getting repeated, and I don't know if I'm gonna love it, but I'm reading it because of a challenge. So Rites of Passage, The Old Devils by Kingsley Amis, and The Count of Monte Cristo, those are the 3 books that I am reading right now that I think I'm going to be finishing before the end of the weekend. And when I finish one of those books, any one of those books I finish, I'm going to pick up this one, Ta-Nehisi Coates' The Water Dancer. Yep, I jumped on the hype train. I selected this as my Book of the Month Club pick. Yes, I have a Book of the Month Club membership again because, well, I had a gift membership and it expired because I'd taken all the books that my friend had purchased in my gift membership. And then Book of the Month Club sent me an email and said, would you like to come back? We'll give you a free book. And I said, okay, what do you have? What are you offering? And this was one of the choices for this month. So of course I chose this book. I got it for free. But then I also added another book and paid for that one. But it doesn't matter because I got that other book cheaper than if I'd bought it on Amazon. So, but I'm going to be reading this because, well, why not? Ta-Nehisi Coates, The Water Dancer. I've heard a lot about it. You've probably heard a lot about it. So I'm not even going to go into the synopsis. But I'm interested because Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote 2 nonfiction books that I read and really enjoyed, and I'd like to see what he does with this fictional story. So as soon as I finish one more book, I'm not gonna pick this up until I finish one of the 3 that I have going. It's not gonna be this. So when I finish The Old Devils or Rites of Passage, then I'll add this to my TBR. Other than that, however, I am reading other books for Victober. I started Silas Marner by George Eliot, which I am absolutely loving. I should be finished with that. I might even finish that today because I have that on the Kindle app, again, download from the library. And it's short. I just started today, but I should finish this evening if I continue, if I go back to it. Because my app says it should only take me another 2 hours to finish the book. So yeah, I'm really enjoying it. You know, for a long time I stayed away from classics because some of the writing felt a little classic. It felt a little antique, a little ancient, a little like it was too much effort to get the story out. But I am loving the writing in Silas Marner. Brian from Bookish just posted a review where he also read Silas Marner recently and talked about how he loved it way more than he expected to, and that's what I'm finding. We're meeting this man named Silas Marner. He's a weaver, and he's just, well, not just, he's new in this community and nobody seems to know where he came from, but the author gives us a little bit of backstory on why he left his home and settled in some new place, and also why he has been kind of living a hermetic life. She gives us a little bit of the betrayal that he suffered that led him to live in this place, but also because he's been so distant, also showing us why he is living the way he is and some of the benefits as well as some of the detriments of being a loner. I'm really enjoying this story. I don't know how much further we're going to go into his life because we've just met some other characters, and I know that you can't just follow one character for the entirety of the book, even though the novel is named after him. But I'm loving Silas Marner by George Eliot, really loving the writing style, really loving the prose, finding it so immersive, finding it so easy to follow. So I'm going to be reading that this afternoon. I have a lot more books on the Kindle app, but I'm not going through any of them yet. I'm gonna try to finish some of these before I move on to other things. As you probably already know, in the last 7 days of October and November, we're going to resume the Gone with the Book readathon, where the focus is on reading books that were published between 1900 and 1950. And I posted my TBR video last month, and I read some of the books last month, so I'm going to be returning to that TBR. Most of those are books that I have here already. So that 7-day period begins next Friday, so I won't talk too much about that here. That's for next Friday reads. And I also posted my TBR video yesterday, I think. I posted my TBR for the nonfiction November coming up next month. So if you haven't watched that, I'll link it down below as well. And I think that's all that's happening on the reading front. So hope you liked this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for being here. I have a few new subscribers. I don't know where you guys came from, but I'm happy that you're here, and I hope that you stay. I hope that you enjoy the content that I have. I have a lot of videos. Some of them are still relevant that I made before. So if you ever want to take a gander at some of my old videos, you're more than welcome to peruse my backlist. I'm going to be reading and talking a lot about these books in the next few days. And again, don't know how interrupted my schedule will be, because like I said, we're on baby watch, but I'll always make time for books. Why? Because you guys are important to me too. Mr. Brown and I have said that the baby won't change our lives that much. Again, we are really naive. So if you're parents, you can just feel free to just laugh at me and keep it moving. But we'll talk. Let's talk in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you what you're reading, how you're enjoying Victober, whether you're planning to do Gone with the Book readathon, whether you're planning to do the nonfiction November readathon, and what are your plans for it. Would love to chat with you in the comments. So we'll talk down there. And until next time, happy reading. Bye.